What's up YouTube, Jeff back again from DopeTechDaily.com, and today I'm bringing you guys a comparison between the Apple Watch Series 3 and Android Wear. And since Android Wear hasn't really had a flagship overall watch come out since February of 2017, I'm going to be using that watch, the LG Watch Sport. Now the reason I call it the flagship watch is because Google worked together with LG to build the Watch Sport, and also there haven't really been any major Android Wear releases from Android OEMs that also make phones. There's been a lot of designer releases from, like Michael Kors, Fossil, all these various companies, Diesel, that make regular watches. So I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I'm going to be using the LG Watch Sport for that reason. Also, this watch gets LTE, just like the Apple Watch. So first, let's talk about the design of these two watches. Now, obviously, much different design. You've got a circular display here, no flat tire on the LG Watch Sport, which is certainly a really nice thing. A lot of people like that. You've got sort of a square design here with the Apple Watch. Now, whether or not one of those makes more sense than the other is up to you, and obviously the aesthetics are up to you, but just looking at how big they are, you can see from the side profile, the LG Watch Sport is way bigger than the Apple Watch. If you have a smaller wrist or something like that, the Apple Watch, this is the 42 millimeter, so it's the larger of the two, is going to be much nicer for you just to wear in terms of an overall profile. Now, I have a really big wrist, and the LG Watch Sport is really, really big, thick, and heavy, even on me. So whether you like, a really large watch or a small watch might come into play as well. A couple of other things about the design. This guy right here, I've got the blue model. This does have stainless steel right here. The bands are not removable on the LG Watch Sport because you've actually got the LTE antenna sort of built in. It hangs over into the bands itself, so you can't remove those if you want to keep getting that functionality. Heart rate monitor and everything like that built in. You do have the scrolling wheel right here. Overall, it's a pretty plain design in my opinion. The watch is a lot bulkier than I would like, even just because of where they put the sensors. They crammed everything in here, but I don't think it's a watch that looks particularly stylish. That's an opinion. The Apple Watch is a bit small, but I don't find it to be a feminine looking watch. I know a lot of people said that on my video with the Gear S3. I find the 42 millimeter version to be perfectly fine. The aluminum version is very light. Even the stainless steel model is. And with the Apple Watch, because of their little Apple Watch connectors here, you can change the bands. I talked about this before. Now, of course, there are a lot of Android Wear watches out there, like the ones I mentioned from Fossil, Michael Kors, all these designer brands, where you can switch out the bands. That's not a problem. It's not like you can't find an Android Wear watch. However, unlike the LG Watch Sport, since it's not officially sort of a Google's project, little baby, you're not going to get updates. This guy's running the latest version of Android 8.0 Oreo. I got the beta on here. So that's the build, obviously a subjective thing, but something to think about. The next thing I want to talk about is the software, the UI, sort of the fluidity of the two. So on the LG Watch Sport, obviously running Android Wear 2.0, Android 8, the Oreo beta, it doesn't really update the Android Wear version. So a lot of the same stuff. All the cards are very similar, as you guys can see, just like this. And you can scroll through. Obviously use the scroll wheel to scroll through on the LG Watch Sport. The problem with the scrolling wheel is that even though Android Wear was built with that in mind, not all Android Wear devices have the scrolling wheel or the extra buttons where you can, have shortcuts to various apps and things like that. Google Fit. One of the big strengths of Android Wear 2.0 is that you now have an app drawer, so you can press down the button, you get your app drawer, which again, though, a lot of scrolling, a lot of vertical scrolling, and if you don't have the wheel, can be a little difficult. You do have apps that are actually stored on the watch, so there's a Play Store version. I don't know that that was the greatest decision. I kind of like the way it worked in Android 1.0, where the apps from your phone just sync up with the watch. I think the card previews are just not as good, in my opinion, as they were in the first version of Android Wear. And then also, some of the things like the keyboard and some of the other input options, I just felt like we're a step back. I think Android Wear could use some more polish. Obviously, the integration with Google Assistant, if you use Google Apps, it's a really huge deal. And I'll talk more about the apps in just a second. On the other hand, the Apple Watch and WatchOS 4 is very fluid, very polished. The overall zoom out app method, just by pressing here, you can just navigate around, actually is super convenient. Press the button, to get back to your center, go to the time. The way that you manage notifications is convenient. You can even press down to get rid of all the notifications, which is really nice. The only thing I would like is the ability to swipe away notifications. I always want that because I'm an Android user. The home screen is very nicely organized. If you move up and you got your control center, the LTE integration is very nice. You can see there your LTE bars, whether or not you're connected. They finally added a theater mode to WatchOS, which is one of my complaints. Flashlight, even though the flashlight isn't all that great. But all the features built in, very fluid. I think the notifications personally work better for me on the Apple Watch and WatchOS. The only thing I'm missing is my integration with Google Assistant and obviously Google Reminders Keep, because I use Android so much and I am heavily integrated into the Google ecosystem otherwise. So of course, it's an opinion thing, but I think Android Wear could use some more polish. One of my favorite things is the ability to swipe away individual notifications, but right now that's not enough for me to say that it's better than the Apple Watch in that area. The next thing, of course, important is battery life. So battery life on these two watches, vastly different. On the Apple Watch, I can get 2 to 3 days battery life. That's even using 20 to 30 minutes of LTE to either be away from my iPhone or to take a call or two. You can see right here, if you go up, I've got 40% left. I've been using this. This is the end of my second day, so I could easily get another half day off of it. I've taken a couple calls, been away from my iPhone a bit, so it has been on LTE. We'll talk more about how good the LTE is at switching in a second. The LG Watch Sport, completely different story. With this watch, I can hardly get a full day if I use LTE at all. Once you use LTE or GPS, you're sucking the battery really, really bad. You guys can see there 95%. I just honestly took this off the charger and started playing with it for this video because I've been wearing the Apple Watch. And you can see there just how bad. You guys can see the cards there, how they just peak. I kind of like how they actually showed you a preview of the card on Android 1.0. That's what I was talking about earlier. But the battery life is just terrible on this watch, especially if you're using LTE. It's not a watch that you could ever use to really be away from your phone for a long period of time. And that's one of the things that I hate about Android Wear 2.0 is that the battery life is so bad. Even on the new version of the software, it was supposed to be optimized. It really hasn't done that in any way, shape, or form. So next, let's talk about the LTE and the LTE connectivity. And both of them have different problems in the LTE area. With the Apple Watch, very often the Apple Watch will take a long time to connect to LTE once you get away from the phone. So if you leave your phone, you switch over to LTE. Obviously, you're supposed to do that automatically. The watch is. Sometimes it'll show a little red X up here, which means you're not connected. And you'll have to switch the LTE on or off or turn the watch on or off to get it to switch over. That's kind of annoying. Also, sometimes if you're not using iMessage, if it's just regular SMS, the SMS messages take some time. They're delayed over the LTE. You can receive them though. Some people were saying in the last video in the comments that you couldn't. You can receive SMS, and I have received them. They just take longer than iMessage. Now, on the LG Watch Sport, it has its own problems. Because the LTE bands are built into the watch, you can't remove the bands, which is one issue I mentioned earlier. Secondly, if you use LTE, the battery life is so bad over LTE, you're not going to get anywhere near a full day. You might get 2/3 of a day, half a day. So what good does the watch do or any of that awesome Google Assistant integration if you can't use the battery because it's completely dead? This thing does get better LTE service in general, like it auto switches. It has its own SIM in there, right? So it does a much better job of staying connected. In my opinion, the call quality a little bit better on the LG Watch Sport than on the Apple Watch, but both of them are sufficient. And most of the time, if I'm going to take a call over one of these, I'll be using Bluetooth headphones anyway. The final thing is the apps available and the health and fitness integration. Personally, both of them have a sufficient number of apps. Obviously, the LG Watch Sport I prefer because of the Google integration. You know, you've got everything: your calendar, your Google Fit, you've got Hangouts, you've got Maps, you've got all the Google stuff, Play Music, Google Keep you can get on here, your Google Now feed. So if you're heavy into the Google ecosystem, it's a huge plus. Plus, Google Assistant is way better than Siri, obviously. So if you're going to be getting, asking questions of your assistant on your watch, it's a great thing. However, the apps aren't as well integrated here as they are on the Apple Watch. On the Android Wear devices, you download standalone apps from the Play Store, but they don't really have any nice integration where the app itself works independent of the phone very well, in my opinion. Unless it's a fitness app like Runkeeper, those work fine. And Google Fit integration is fine, but you have to look for it. Google doesn't put it there front and center for you when you take this out of the box and doesn't really push the fitness aspect. So of course, if you're a fitness guru, then you're going to look for that, find it, find the third-party apps, and everything works great. The GPS is great at tracking runs. On the Apple Watch, however, the apps are actually really nicely integrated. So my favorite example is my third-party Twitter client that I use. That's Tweetbot. Tweetbot has its own little Apple Watch app, which is really polished and will let you see your activity. It'll even let you retweet something from the interface, all that kind of stuff without actually using the phone app. So that's really good, especially with the LTE functionality, and I really like that. And a lot of the apps are like that. Feedly has its own app. The only thing I've noticed is sometimes on LTE, some of these more intensive apps will take some time to load, or they might not load at all. but they're really polished, really easy to save, an article from Feedly on your watch, and it's really intuitive because of the square screen to use it that way. Also, the fitness integration in Apple Watch is sort of front and center. It's in your face from the beginning. Apple makes it known they want you taking your heart rate, that they want you using the activity rings, which are right here. And the activity rings really give you motivation to sort of start your workout, go through and do the various daily goals, stand goals, walk goals, etc. So it's really a motivational thing. If you're a person who needs some motivation to do your workout, it works fantastic. And also the workout app itself actually tracking things, and the fact that you can track various things, like you can even track swimming in here is great. So along with the water resistance, makes it a really nice pair. So if you're into fitness, personally, I think both watches are great, but I think the Apple Watch sort of integrates it better and keeps you motivated if you're just someone that's casually sort of into the fitness thing. So at the end of the day, which one you're going to prefer? I mean, I like the Apple Watch better just because of the battery life. I don't want to charge my watch every day. Obviously, I like the Android Wear just because of the fact that I can get custom watch faces. Like I love, this custom watch face right here is pretty awesome. But again, if you don't get a full day battery life, what good does a custom watch face do? Because I'm not going to be looking at it very long. All right, guys, so that's my sort of full comparison of Android Wear and the Apple Watch Series 3 LTE versus the LG Watch Sport. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Hit the little notification icon so many future videos like this. You guys can find me at dopetechdaily.com, Google+, Instagram, and Twitter. The links in the description. I really appreciate you guys checking out the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.